Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see all of you here. I want to ask you a few questions before we start our webinar. Can you hear me well? Please answer in your chat box below. Can you see me well? Okay, good. So today we will focus on using games in teaching English to young learners, and we will look at different types of games, when and how to use games, and I will share with you some ideas that you can use in class, and I hope that you will find these ideas useful and you will implement them in class. Okay. Before we start, I'd like to ask you a question. What's the weather like in your region now? Please write your answer in your chat box below. In Kiev, it's freezing cold now. Oh, snowy, slippery, frosty and windy. Okay. But the spring is coming, so I hope the weather will improve. Okay, and just a few words about the whole procedure. So I want to tell you how you can get your certificate. So after the webinar, within 3 days, we will send you a feedback form. After filling it, please send it to us and we will send you a certificate. Okay? Okay, so now let's start our webinar. And I will bother you for a couple of minutes with the information about our company, so who we are and what we do in Ukraine. Publications is an international publishing house, and we publish for the whole world. We publish for Latin American countries, China, Turkey, and for every country where English is a second language. We produce high-quality, innovative English language material which meets classroom needs as well as the demands of the changing curricula. And we have our headquarters in London and the United States of America. We have our representatives in more than 80 countries around the world. Okay, so now let's move on. Can you see the information on the slide? Okay, so I want to ask you a few questions. What is a game? Please write the definition in your chat box below. What is a game? An activity, a teaching technique, right? An interactive activity. Very good. Okay. Method of teaching, right. A fun activity, very well. So a game is a challenging activity which has its own rules to follow, and it has a beginning and an end, and the winner defines the end of this game. Yes? And why use games in language learning? Please write your answers in the chat box below. Why do we use games in language learning? As a break, okay. To practice fluency, speaking skills, okay. Okay, they motivate for learning. Good. So we use games in order to entertain our students and to add some variety to our class. And like many other children, Ukrainians learn foreign languages easily, and they get bored fast if the teacher uses old conventional teaching methods. And games are one of those methods that you can use in class to avoid boredom, and both children and a teacher will only benefit from including games during class time. And who are young learners? Give me the definition, please, in your chat box below. Okay, so young learners are supposed to be children from 5 or 6 to 12 years old. Okay, good. And what do you think teaching English in your Ukrainian school should be like? Write your answers in the chat box below. Friendly, yes, there should be friendly atmosphere in class. They should be motivated. Okay, so when it comes to teaching foreign languages, New Ukrainian School tells us that we need to teach English using games in primary school, because games are the most meaningful activity for the students at this early age. Okay, and we experience the world using 5 senses. I'm pretty sure that you know this abbreviation, VAKOK. Do you know this abbreviation? Write your answers in the chat box below. You may just put plus. Okay, some of you don't know this abbreviation. Okay, so VAKOK, it's visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory sense. So we experience the world using these 5 senses. Visual, we see and look. Auditory, we hear and listen. Kinesthetic, we feel movements. Olfactory, we smell things. And gustatory, we taste things. Now I think everything is clear. Okay. And we predominantly use visual and auditory senses, and we sometimes use kinesthetic senses, but we rarely use olfactory and gustatory sense in teaching English. And I believe that we can use olfactory sense when we teach our students vocabulary related to nature. So you may ask your students to smell flowers, for example. Okay, and we can use gustatory sense when we teach our students vocabulary related to food. So we may bring some fruit to class, and we may ask our students to taste an apple or a banana, and after that they may say an apple is juicy and a banana is sweet. Okay. And there are more advantages than disadvantages of using games in class. And games, they encourage cooperation and build team spirit, and everyone has its own task to do, and children are really motivated to win the game, and they want to get praise from their teacher. So you may bring small presents such as a pencil, a pen, or stickers, and you can present them to winners at the end of the game. Okay. And now let's look at some disadvantages. So a class can become noisy and hard to control because children, they talk too much and they move a lot, and it's hard to monitor all of them. And a teacher should be skillful and experienced in order to organize a game and control the class. And it's very important not to overuse games in class. And any game can be effective if it's suitable to the content, and if it suits kids' interest, and it's interesting for them to play this game. Okay. And games are challenging activities, and the challenge can be of two kinds: understanding the language content and understanding the rules of games. And before you start playing games with your kids, demonstrate how this game is played, and give them clear directions so that everyone knows what they need to do. And games are very effective teaching methods and you can use it on any stage of your lesson. And it's better to play games that are already known to your students. And be very careful with a new game if you want to bring a new game to class. So you may need to explain this game to your students and make sure that they understand the rules of this game. And more proficient members can help their partners, and a teacher can help and assist if it's necessary. And it's better to use games to revise previously studied content rather than involving a new one. And your children will happily repeat simple grammar structures because it's a part of the game and it has a real communicative function. Okay. And now let's have a look at stages that you can use games at. So traditionally, games have been used as a warming up activity at the beginning of the lesson, as fill-ins at the end of the lesson if time permits, and to add some variety to a lesson. All these are fine, but games can be played many times during your lesson. And in presentation practice production framework, where in which language items are firstly introduced for students to listen or to read, then practiced in a controlled way, and after that produced in less controlled way. So games can be either for practicing language items or skills, and for more communicative production. Okay, and now let's have a look at different types of games. There are guessing games, search games, matching games, board games, role-play games, and information gap games. And now I want to ask you a question. Which of these games do you usually use in class? Write your answers in your chat box below. Board games, role-play games, very nice. Role-play games, guessing games. Guessing game as a warming up activity, okay. Very nice. And which of these games do you rarely use in class? Please write your answers in the chat box below. Role-play games, board games. Information gap games. Role-play games. Good. And now we will have a closer look at all of them. Okay, guessing games. So children really love to play guessing games, and because it's a very challenging activity for them to do, and children have to move around the class and talk to their partners and ask and answer questions in order to find clues, to find out who that person is. So Guess Who is one of my favorite games, and you can use this game in class as well. Okay. And search games. In order to play search games, you need to prepare your classroom beforehand. Bring snowballs made of paper and hide them in different parts of your classroom. Your students will need to find snowballs, and here you may practice prepositions of place with them. And the student who finds a snowball should say, "The snowball is on the table," or "The snowball is under the chair," or "The snowball is on the windowsill." So you may hide snowballs in any part of your classroom. Okay. And board games. So children really love to play board games, and they have to follow all the steps from start to finish in order to win this game, and it's a very competitive game. And you will find a lot of board games in our students' book Smart Junior. So you can use these games anytime during the lesson. Good. And now we will have a look at information gap games. And information gap games can be of two kinds: one-way information gap and two-way information gap. One-way information gap means that one person has a picture and another person needs to listen to the information given by the person with the picture, and he needs to create a similar drawing, a similar picture, listening to the instructions given by his partner. And there is a two-way information gap game where two students have pictures, like in Spot the Difference task, and they have slightly different pictures, and they need to find differences without looking at their partner's picture. So you may use it in class, in pair work, and it's a very nice game to play. Okay, and now I want to share with you some ideas that you can use in class, and I hope that you will find them useful and you will implement them. So you may play Spelling Bee with your students. I really like this game, and you may start your lesson with this game. So you may ask one of your students to spell the word, and the one who spells it right will get a point. So it's a very competitive game. Or you may start your lesson with another game called Vowel Doctor. And I usually start my lesson with this game, and I write a word on the blackboard without vowels, and I ask my student to say the missing vowels. And for example, you may write the word crocodile on the blackboard and ask your students to guess the missing vowels. And thus you will revise alphabet with your students playing this game. Okay, and one of my favorite games is I spy with my little eye. So you may say, I spy with my little eye something that is blue, and your students will have to find an item that is blue. Or you may say, I spy with my little eye something that begins with letter B, and they need to find an item that begins with letter B, for example, book. Okay, so use this game, it's a really funny activity. And you may also play blindfold guess. So it's another version of guessing games, and it adds variety to your class. And you may ask one of your students to close their eyes and guess the item, so they can touch and smell this item or even taste this item, and they need to guess what it is. Okay, and also I really like do as I say and not as I do game. And so how to play this game? You may ask your students to sit down while you are standing, or you may ask your students to stamp their feet while you are clapping your hands. And you may bring attention of your students by playing this game. Another game is category writing game. So this game you can use to revise vocabulary. And you may write a tree with leaves on the blackboard and ask your students to fill in all the leaves with the words. For example, you want them to revise animal vocabulary. You may ask them to write all the animals they know. So use this game for revision. Another game is Pictionary. So here you have to divide your class into 2 teams, and each team will have to be in different part of the class. Each student from both teams will come to the blackboard, and the teacher needs to give out a phrase or a word to be drawn on the blackboard. And the team who guesses the word right will get a point. Okay, and hot chair is another great game to use in class. So here you may ask your students to come to the blackboard. Again, you need to divide your class into 2 teams. They will come to the blackboard and sit on the chair with their backs behind so they cannot see the word on the blackboard. And the teacher writes the word on the blackboard, and your students need to give explanations, give definitions of this word without naming it. And 2 participants will have to guess this word, and the one who guesses right will get a point. So it's a really challenging team game to use in class. Okay, and another game is silent game. Again, you may ask one of your students to come in front of the class and say a word or whisper this word, and other students need to guess this word. Okay, now let's move on. Here you can see sample pages from our book, Smart Junior. And we want to introduce new vocabulary to them. It's body vocabulary. And our students need to listen to the CD and repeat and point, so they can touch their nose or ears or eyes. After that, you may ask them to listen to the CD and do the same thing again for revision. And at the end of your class, you may play a game with them. So what games can we play here? Write your answers in the chat box below. So here we may play Simon Says or Do as I say, not as I do. Again, you may ask your students, you may touch your nose and say, touch your eyes. So you may play both of these games to entertain your students at the end of the class and to revise new vocabulary with them. Okay, and here we have body vocabulary again, and we may play a role-play game here with our students, and all of our students know this fairy tale Little Red Riding Hood, and I'm pretty sure that girls would like to play Little Red Riding Hood and boys would like to be an angry grey wolf. And you may listen to the CD and ask your students to point to each frame so that you can see that they follow this game, this story, and after that you may act out the story in class. So bring a red scarf and a toy wolf, and ask your students to act out this story in class and give them a praise for doing that. Okay. Again, we have new words to introduce to our students, and here we have a catchy song, so they will learn new vocabulary listening to this song, and after that they will listen to the CD and point to the picture while listening, and at the end of the class we may play a blindfold game again. And we may ask our students to close their eyes and take one item out of the box, and they can touch it, smell it, taste it, but they shouldn't see it, and they should say what this item is. And I hope all students would love this game. Okay, and again, we want our students to learn prepositions and practice them. Our students will learn prepositions listening to this catchy song, and after that we may play a game with them. So bring snowballs in class and hide them in different parts of your classroom, and ask your students to find these snowballs and practice prepositions on and under. Okay, and again we may play memory game with our students, because memory isn't developed very well at this early age, and our students need to train their memory every day. So ask your students to work in pairs. One of your students will have to look at the picture for 30 seconds, and another student will have to ask questions, and they need to say where the items are on this picture. So they need to ask and answer questions. And you can change roles as well. Okay. You will find lots of optional ideas to use in class in our teacher's book, Smart Junior. So please use them if your time permits at the end of the lesson. And I'm pretty sure that your students will enjoy playing games in class. And Smart Junior is a specially designed book, and this book takes part in pilot project participation, and this book is focused on teaching 21st century skills. And now let's revise all of them. It's intercultural awareness, creativity, critical thinking, communication, cooperation, autonomous learning, ICT literacy, and personal and social responsibility. And without all these competences, our students won't be able to become successful in this fast-changing world. Okay, and I want to remind you that we have created a special program for Ukraine, and these books were thoroughly chosen for Ukraine, and they contain culture component that you can use in class. And you know what is obvious and understandable for us is hard to explain to a foreigner. So use this culture component in class, and our students will be able to tell the world about Ukraine. We have courses for pre-primary and primary school students. We have courses for teenagers and adults, and our brand new courses are Pioneer and Young Stars. Pioneer is a specially designed course for adults, and Young Stars is a well-designed course for pre-primary and primary school students. We have numerous exam preparation books. Go Starters, Go Movers, Go Flyers to prepare our students for Cambridge Young Learners exams. And we have practice tests for FCE and IELTS. And our best seller is Use of English B2 for all exams. I highly recommend this book for both teachers and students, and everyone who wants to consolidate their knowledge of grammar and vocabulary. Okay, and we have released a new book for Z&O preparation listening part, and this book has B1 and B2 level tasks. So use this book to prepare your students for the hardest part of the Z&O exam. Again, each course book is accompanied by grammar book, and if you feel like that your students need more grammar exercises, so you may use this book, and there are not only endless grammar exercises, but also some productive exercises at the end of each unit. We all want our students to read more in English, and we have pre-primary and primary readers, readers, and we have classic and original stories. And what is special about these books is that they contain a CD with British and American pronunciation. Also, there are glossary, after reading exercises, a catchy song, and a script. So if you want to stage this story at the end of the semester, use ready-made script. Okay, and I want to remind you about our projects. So we have a partnership or program for Ukraine called Smart School, and there are lots of benefits. And one of them is that we provide you with branded plaque, which indicates that this school takes part in pilot project, in smart school project. Also, we provide books for library and double free components, and we also provide classroom posters to use in class. We organize contests and activities for Ukraine on a regular basis, and you can see our winners. And professional development should also be fun, and 5 teachers will go with us abroad for professional development course. And this year we have already at a lottery, and 5 teachers from our partner school will go with us to Athens. Congratulations! Please visit our website mmpublications.com.ua, where you will find information about our seminars and webinars, competitions, articles for teachers, up-to-date catalog, and current projects. Here you can see my contact details. Please do not hesitate and write to me. I will be happy to answer all of your questions. And I want to remind you about how you can get your certificate. So within 3 days, we will send you a feedback form. After filling it, send it to us and we will send you a certificate. Thank you for your understanding. Thank you very much for being with me today. I wish you a fruitful week and a magnificent evening. Please leave your comments below and I will answer all of your questions after the webinar. Thank you for being with me today. I will see you soon. Goodbye.